These are all subjects that play a role in the culturalization of the metropolitan economies and in the definition of what we may call the culture factor. Culture and art transform the way we look at the world. This subjective power has not so much to do with utopia. Rather, it's really what changes the contemporary metropolis and the life conditions of many of us. So we are not questioning the existence of this transformative potential, but the problem is the direction it takes. The story of Sale begins 2 years before its official opening. So it begins in 2005 when a group of artists, curators, students, and activists from the Centri Sociali squats an abandoned greenhouse just in front of the Biennale entrance at the Giardini. The artworks exhibited on the occasion contributed to the operation as the process of refurbishment of the space and its restitution to the neighborhood, to the city, and to the Biennale audience. That experience that we name Mars Pavilion happens the same year when, with the direction of the municipality of Venice, we see the transfer of property of Palazzo Grassi, which is an important exhibition site in Venice. This property changes from the Agnelli family to François Pinault. That is, from the main Italian car industry to an art collector, a luxury industry tycoon, and owner of the auction house Christie's. This transfer can be taken as a symbolic moment for Venice, the media event that signals a much more complex change of paradigm. It is that of the achievement of an immaterial economy over an early mode of production linked to the traditional Fordist factory. From that moment on, it becomes clearly visible in Venice a convergence of investments in the form of contemporary expression. A convergence of different actors, from important subjects of the financial capital, for example Pinault, to the city governance, the municipality. The latter, the municipality, is of course interested in finding credible alternatives to a massified and dequalified tourism which is becoming more and more socially and ecologically unsustainable. Obviously, the investment in contemporary, and when I mean investment in contemporary, I mean investment in contemporary art, culture, architecture, fashion. Obviously, this investment is not limited to Pinault, but it also involves the Biennale, the opening of new foundations, the presence of public and private university, in which it is possible to find programs devoted to art, design, fashion, theater, and cultural management. Then everything is perfect? This is the question. Of course it's not perfect. The project of Salem was born from the conviction that this type of process is extremely ambivalent. An ambivalence often underlined by the institutional discourse that finds it in its self-critique one of its main nourishments sometimes, but rarely questioned in its materiality. We could then think of Venice as a place in transition from the traditional image of a museum city to that of a creative city. Of course, this project can be trivialized, and it is not even possible today to know if it will ever be fully accomplished. But in the hybridization and within the porous borders between the two definitions, the museum city and the creative city, it is necessary to identify at which point that creative city device starts to produce the ambivalence that we are referring to. First of all, the definition of culture factory does not indicate any form of continuity with the traditional Fordist factory. Its usefulness is that of highlighting a field characterized by asymmetries and power relations. It's under everyone's eye that the biggest part of the living labor of the culture factory is not acknowledged, is underpaid, or even is not paid at all. In one word, is precarious. Inside the culture factory, the problem is that the production of value by the social metropolitan intelligence is not corresponded by a fair distribution of income. Never, as in the era of networks, creativity is a prerogative of social cooperation, but the latter, the social cooperation is largely betrayed. Creative city in Venice, but even elsewhere, means that the investment in contemporary brings with it a further valorization of real estate rent. Under this point of view, art and real estate, art and bricks go paradoxically together. And this type of process, to come back to the initial example of the Mondo Veneziano film, and this type of process is not happening in a fake, spectacular city. On the contrary, affects the very materiality of the city. So how to respond to this situation if we, as we sometimes are kind of the workers of the culture factory? How do we respond to this ambivalence, to this asymmetry?